which means judicial review application number E283 of 2023, Gloria Roba versus AG, Clerk of the Senate, and 3 others, was subsequently transferred to the High Court at Milimani and was heard before Honorable Justice L.N. Mugambi, and judgment was delivered electronically on 15 January 2025. It was the finding of the court that the petitioner, ex parte applicant, Senator Gloria Roba, MP, was provided with the opportunity to appear and state her case, presumably even raising all the manner of preliminary issues before the fourth respondent. But she instead opted not to participate and walked out on the fourth respondent, having voluntarily refused to participate. I find that there was no infringement of right to fair administrative action or the right to fair hearing in the circumstances of this case. I thus dismiss this petition, judicial review application, with the courts to the respondents. The import of the judgment is that the court order staying the resolution of the Senate on the report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges, as well as any other consequential orders in the matters filed by the Honorable Senator, have lapsed. The suspension of Senator Gloria Roba may now therefore commence. Honorable Senators, you recall that a resolution of the Senate, let me have mercy to these honorable senators. Just sit there where you are. Senator of Busia County, I did not say you extend greetings, but to find your seat. Honorable Senators, you recall that by resolution of the Senate, dated 28 September 2023, Senator Roba was suspended from the House for the remainder of the second session of the 13th Parliament, which session ended on 7th December 2023, as per standing order that 1-1 of the Senate standing orders, which period amounted to 79 calendar days. However, Senator Roba MP obtained leave from the court, staying the resolution of this House. By the wording of the court order, the leave granted operated a stay of the suspension of Senator Roba MP and unbarring from the Senate proceedings for the remainder of the second session of the 13th Parliament from the date of adoption of the report by the Senate in being 28 September 2023. The consequence of the stay of suspension by the High Court is that Senator Gloria Roba MP did not serve any of her suspension as resolved by the Senate. Honorable Senators, in accordance with Section 15(7), as read together with the paragraph 4 of the third schedule of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act, the responsibility for enforcing the resolution of the Senate on the report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges is vested in the Speaker. Having considered this matter and taking note of the judgment delivered by the court on 15 August 2025 and the orders therein, Senator Gloria Roba shall now forthwith commence a suspension following the resolution of the Senate of 20th September 2023 to adopt the report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges on her conduct. The 79 calendar days that were to be applied in the year 2023 will therefore run from today, Wednesday, 12th February 2025, to Thursday, 1st May 2025. The office of the Clerk of the Senate is directed to enforce the resolution of the Senate made on the 20th of September 2023 in the terms referred to above. I thank you. The Senator is looking at me with Senator is looking at me So, yeah, because you are looking at me and I have no recourse to what I have communicated, but on humanitarian grounds, let me give you a minute or two to say something as you commence your suspension.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this time to possibly offer my apologies to the members of this House and to the members of the staff who I might have offended as I pursued whatever I was pursuing in terms of oversight or legislation. Mr. Speaker, if there is anyone, and I know that there are people who have actually come up to me and told me that I offended them, take this as my sincere apology. And truly, from the bottom of my heart, and as you can see, I have learned how to present and represent people better. And it is a learning curve, Mr. Speaker. However, I do understand that also I own up my actions and I own up my space. And so therefore, as I proceed for my suspension, I do hope that those I have offended will find it in their hearts to forgive me, and that it was not my intention to put out and maybe put out the Senate to seem that I'm trying to ridicule this upper house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. As you have written yourself, for sure, it's like you are maturing. So thank you, all the best. Next order. Next order, clerk.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Majority Linda, there's a notice of motion you are supposed to give. Senator Wakol, you cannot ventilate on a communication from the chair.
The Speaker,
Yes,
allow me to
Majority
drop
Leader.
this notice. We consulted further this morning on what needs to happen, and we'll be bringing a more substantive motion in the afternoon.
Okay.
So allow me to drop this.
Fine, well guided. Next order.
Yeah.
The other notices of motion by from number 1 to number 6, Chairperson Mediation Committee on the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 of 2023. The other one is on the Chairperson Standing Committee on Education, Standing Committee on Agriculture, two notices, and also Committee on Trade, Industrialization and Tourism. And two notices. So whether the chairs or members of those committees should be well advised.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I would like to give notice of the following motion on the report of the Mediation Committee on the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 of 2023, that the Senate adopts the report of the Mediation Committee on the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bills number 12 of 2023, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 5th of December 2024, and further that pursuant to Articles 113 sub-article 2 of the Constitution and Standing Order 167.3 of the Senate approves the mediated version of the bill. I move. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Chairperson Standing Committee on Education. Senator Sigei approves the chair. Senator Sigei.
Just wait. Huh? You can read. Just say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm a member of Education Committee, and I rise to give notice for this motion. The report of the Standing Committee of Education on a petition to the Senate regarding the Discrimination by Teachers Service Commission, TSC, on payment on hardship and enhanced house allowance to some teachers in Kilifi and Taita Taveta, the chairperson Standing Committee on Education, that on behalf of the chairperson Standing Committee, that the Senate adopts the report on the Standing Committee of Education on petition to the Senate regarding the Discrimination by Teachers Service Commission, TSC, on payments on hardship and enhanced house allowances to some teachers in Kilifi and Taita Taveta counties, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 8th October, laid on the table of the Senate today, February 2025. October, okay. Laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 8th October 2024. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Standing Committee, Senator Mundigi. Senator Mundigi. Honorable Senators, give way for Senator Mundigi to.
I rise to give notice of the following motion. Mr. Mundigi, Senator M County. Report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on a petition to the Senate regarding the catastrophic means diseases that farmers in Bomet County have endured for the last 12 years. Second, I rise to give notice of the following motion. Report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on a petition on the Senate regarding graft investigation by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, on the West Canal irrigation scheme. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairperson Trade Committee or any member of that committee. Senator Mondet, proceed to give notice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to give notice for the following motion on behalf of the Senate Committee on Trade, that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee of Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on a petition to the Senate regarding alleged fraudulent dealings at the Diageo PLC, East Africa Breweries Limited, Kenya Breweries and UDV Kenya Limited, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 5th December 2024. I beg to lay. Second notice, I give notice that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on the Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on a petition to the Senate on the need for the introduction of a hospitality professionals bill laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 5th December 2024. I beg to lay.
Thank you, Senator Montet. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
We do not have any questions or statements, and therefore we shall proceed to the next order.
Order number 8, the Public Finance Management Amendment number 3 Bill, National Assembly Bills number 44 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Public Finance Management Act to provide for financial management in the transfer of functions between the two levels of government pursuant to Article 187 of the Constitution and for connected purposes. Order number 9, the Public Finance Management Amendment number 4 Bill, National Assembly Bills number 45 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Public Finance Management Act and for connected purposes. Order number 10, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 48 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Public Procurement Act, to amend the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act and for connected purposes. Order number 11, the Cooperatives Bill, National Assembly Bills number 7 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to establish the Office of the Commissioner for Cooperative Development at the national level of government and the Office of the County Director for Cooperatives in each county government to provide for promotion, registration, and regulation of cooperatives, to provide for intergovernmental cooperative relations and for connected purposes.
The Majority Leader has since deferred the motion under order number 12, so we will move to the next procedural motion. Call out the next order to allow the Majority Leader to move.
Order number 13, procedural motion, limitation of debate on motions.
Leader of Majority. Give him the microphone.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the following motion, which is a limitation of debate on motions. This is a procedural motion that, pursuant to Standing Order number 111.1, the Senate resolves that the debate on a motion not sponsored by majority or minority party or a committee shall be limited in the following manner. A maximum of 3 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover, 20 minutes for the majority party official responder, 20 minutes for the minority party official responder, and 15 minutes for each other senator speaking, and further 15 minutes before the time expires. The mover shall then be called upon to reply. Mr. Speaker, this is a straightforward matter. It's just to give life to Standing Order number 111.1 on the maximum time that the Senate can take while debating a motion that has been sponsored by either the majority or the minority party. I'm trying to see if there's anybody concentrating on the minority side to second. I'm not sure whether they are, but just to try, Mr. Speaker, if Senator Ledama can multitask, I know men can hardly ever do that, Mr. Speaker, but let me give Senator Ledama to second. I move. I beg to move, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Olekina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is indeed important to limit debate, and the motion being proposed by the majority leader, or is it the minority leader today, is a very important motion for us to consider. So I beg to second.
Now, Honorable Senators, I propose the question that, pursuant to Standing Order 111.1, the Senate resolves that debate on a motion not sponsored by the majority or minority party or a committee shall be limited in the following manner. A maximum of 3 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover, 20 minutes for the majority party official responder, 20 minutes for the minority party official responder, and 15 minutes for each other senator speaking. And further, that 15 minutes before the time expires, the mover shall be called upon to reply. Honorable Senators, I see there are members who have made requests to contribute. Senator Wakoli and Senator Manzo, I believe. All right, then I will then proceed to put the question. Honorable Senators, I now put the question that pursuant to Standing Order 111.1, the Senate resolves that debate on a motion not sponsored by the majority or minority party or a committee shall be limited in the following manner. A maximum of 3 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover, 20 minutes for the majority party official responder, 20 minutes for the minority party official responder, and 15 minutes for each other senator speaking. And further, that 15 minutes before the time expires, the mover shall be called upon to reply. Now, Honorable Senators, will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Let's call the next order.
Order number 14, procedural motion, limitation of debate on adjournment motion.
Majority Leader, proceed to move.
I rise to move the following motion, which is the limitation of debate during an adjournment motion. That notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 111.4, the debate on any motion for adjournment of the Senate to a day other than the next normal sitting day in accordance with the calendar of the Senate shall be limited to a maximum of 2 hours with not more than 15 minutes for each senator speaking, after which the Senate shall adjourn without question put, provided that when the period of recess proposed by any such motion does not exceed 9 calendar days, the debate shall be limited to a maximum of 30 minutes and shall be confined to the question on the adjournment. Another procedural motion, Mr. Speaker, to give life to Standing Order 111.4. I request Senator Eddie Okech to second. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Okech.
Chair, this is a procedural motion, therefore I second.
Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 111.4, the debate on any motion for the adjournment of the Senate to a day other than the next normal sitting day in accordance with the calendar of the Senate shall be limited to a maximum of 2 hours with not more than 15 minutes for each senator speaking, after which the Senate shall adjourn without question put, provided that when the period of recess proposed by any such motion does not exceed 9 calendar days, the debate shall be limited to a maximum of 30 minutes and shall be confined to the question of adjournment. Now, Honorable Senators, similar to the motion that we've just dealt with, this is as put a procedural motion, and pursuant to Standing Order 84.2, I make a determination that this matter does not affect the counties. I do, therefore, in the absence of any member wishing to make comments to it, proceed to put the question. Therefore, Honorable Senators, I put the question that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 111.4, the debate on any motion for the adjournment of the Senate to a day other than the next normal sitting day in accordance with the calendar of the Senate shall be limited to a maximum of 2 hours with not more than 15 minutes for each senator speaking, after which the Senate shall adjourn without question put, provided that when the period of recess proposed by any such motion does not exceed 90 calendar days, the debate shall be limited to a maximum of 30 minutes and shall be confined to the question of adjournment. Now, honorable members, will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order, please.
Order number 15, Procedural motion, limitation of debate on the motion on the President's address to Parliament.
The Leader of Majority.
Speaker, this is I rise to move the following motion, which is a limitation of debate on the motion on the President's address to Parliament, that pursuant to Standing Order number 27.6, the Senate resolves that the debate on the motion on the President's address to Parliament shall be limited to a maximum of 3 sitting days, with not more than 15 minutes for each of the senators speaking, excluding the mover in moving and replying, who shall be limited to 30 minutes in either case, and that the majority leader and the Senate minority leader shall be limited to 30 minutes each. Mr. Speaker, this is a motion actually that will have effect only once, because the President addresses Parliament only once a year. And it's just to limit the time. Each senator 15 minutes and 30 minutes to the majority and minority leader. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and request the Leader of Minority, Senator Manzayo, to second.
Senator Manzayo, proceed to take the stand.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do second.
Now, Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that pursuant to Standing Order 27.6, the Senate resolves that the debate on the motion on the presidential address shall be limited to a maximum of 3 sitting days, with not more than 15 minutes for each senator speaking, excluding the mover in moving and replying, who shall be limited to 30 minutes in either case, and that the Senate majority leader and the Senate minority leader shall be limited to 30 minutes each. Similarly, honorable members, this being a procedural motion, and in the absence of members keen on contributing to this motion, I make a determination pursuant to Standing Order 84.2 that this is a matter that does not affect counties, and therefore proceed to put the question that pursuant to Standing Order 27.6, the Senate resolves that the debate on the motion on the presidential address shall be limited to a maximum of 3 sitting days, with not more than 15 minutes for each senator speaking, excluding the mover in moving and replying, who shall be limited to 30 minutes in either case, and that the Senate majority leader and the Senate minority leader shall be limited to 30 minutes each. Honorable Senators, will as many as of that opinion say aye? Honorable Senators, will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 16, the Environment Laws Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 23 of 2024, second reading. Resumption of debate interrupted on Thursday, 31st October 2024.
Honorable members, this bill was actually moved by Senator Abdul Haji, and it is a resumption of the debate that was interrupted on Thursday, 31st of October 2024. It is open to members because the members who had spoken to it is Senator Haji as well as the seconder Senator Chirargei. Honorable members, it's open for you to contribute to it. Give the Leader of Majority the microphone.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. This is an extremely important bill because environment is quickly gaining its rightful place in the global conversation, Mr. Speaker, on how to take care of our environment. And there's no bigger conversation in the world right now, actually, that I can imagine that attracts more attention more than the management of our environment. And we continue to face many challenges, Mr. Speaker, as a country because of how we have treated this subject with either contempt or lack of serious significance, not knowing full well the effects or the changes and of a change in the environment due to poor management. This act or this bill, Mr. Speaker, wants to amend the Forest Conservation and Management Act so as to make further provisions for afforestation and reforestation in Kenya, to promote tree planting in all counties, to amend the Climate Change Act as well, so that you provide for the settling and formulation of strategies to achieve the annual carbon sequestration targets and connected purposes. Two very important topics. You will recall, Mr. Speaker, that the President has led the country in a rallying call to try and achieve this country to plant 15 billion trees by the year 2030, Mr. Speaker. And I know that previously I have seen updates actually from the Ministry of Environment, but of late I don't know how well we are doing. All I know is that occasionally I see cabinet secretaries dress in those khaki clothes and they visit various parts of the country, Mr. Speaker, and plant trees, then disappear. The unfortunate thing, Mr. Speaker, is that this has not been extended to the other arms of the government. And I hope as a leadership, and leadership here means everybody who has responsibility, we could actually buy into this clarion call so that in any area that is under jurisdiction, I'd wish, for example, to see the Chief Justice lead all staffers and members of the bench in the judiciary on such an exercise, because the environment is for all of us. It shouldn't be left to the national government alone and the cabinet minister and the PSs, Mr. Speaker, to actually try and achieve these targets. The same applies to us here in Parliament. I don't know how many people are aware. I don't know if I was to ask Senator for Makueni off the top of your head, if you're aware of what your targets are as a county, what is the percentage of afforestation in your county, what is it that you need to do, what are the targeted areas. I know that there is a climate action group. I think it's led by Senator Moses Kajwang, if I'm not wrong. And I challenged him because I met him in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, during COP26. And he was properly kitted in a very nice suit, and he said, this year, Majority Leader, I want to be a climate champion, and I want to speak to you so that you appreciate. And I know that subsequently they went to Dubai, but I want him to extend his activities beyond the conferences and really challenge us. I appreciate his zeal and energy in terms of ensuring that you make all your colleagues climate woke. That is a term that young people use for people that are conscious and aware of what needs to happen in our climate environment. And I wish that Senator Moses Kajwang was here when you're discussing this bill, Mr. Speaker, so that he leads us into appreciating what role we can play as legislators as well. Because many times I have seen us join in on the efforts that are being carried out by members of the executive alone. I believe that as a legislature, we need to have a more impressive record and our contribution into making our environment better. I know, for example, I have visited many parliaments, and some of the most beautiful parliaments that you visit, Mr. Speaker, are those that have even taken care of the environment better. I think this institution, ours, the campus of this Parliament of Kenya, scores very poorly on that particular rank, because we felled almost all trees, and there is hardly any tree within the corridors and the parliamentary square. And we need to begin even from our own institution just to set an example of a dedication of the percentage of the total land that belongs to Parliament here, Mr. Speaker, that we plant trees that 20, 50 years down the line, people can recall. I believe on important days, Mr. Speaker, Senate should lead actually in...
Honorable Senators, if you are consulting, please do so in low tones to allow the Leader of Majority to contribute in peace. For those who are interrupting with loud engagements within the chamber. Proceed, Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I was explaining that as Parliament, we have a responsibility that perhaps part of the things that you can consider on special days and special occasions, when things happen, and when we have dignitaries, occasionally we have presidents and heads of governments who visit Parliament. Apart from these traditional rites of coming to lay flowers at the grave of a founding father of the nation, an important exercise, Mr. Speaker, I believe that they should be able to plant trees as well, Mr. Speaker. And we set up a good corner for them so that we continue to lead as an example and Parliament does not look as bare as it looks today. This bill, Madam Speaker, proposes actually a further amendment actually to the Forest Conservation and Management Act by promotion of afforestation and reforestation in arid and semi-arid parts of the country. Extremely important, Mr. Speaker, because I know for a fact that our arid and semi-arid parts of the country needs that particular challenge. I know Forest Conservation Management Act is also being amended, meaning that you're introducing now a person who shall be authorized to replace each harvested tree in accordance with the directions of the service, Madam Speaker, so that each time we fell trees, and I'm not sure, but I think it's still on. I know that I think 3 or 4 years ago there was a ban on logging, despite the fact that logging is an extremely important industry. You need to counterbalance that, Mr. Speaker, so that for every tree that you fell, there should be a commensurate number of those that you plant, Madam Speaker. This is an extremely important bill, Mr. Speaker, that is being brought actually by one of the senators that comes from an extremely arid region. And I'm extremely happy by what Senator Abdul is doing, because despite coming from Garissa, a county whose forest cover, I want to believe, is hardly maybe 3 or 4%, I'm not very certain, that he's leading in the effort of trying to make those parts of the country also be properly, have good forest cover. And it is possible, because we have seen this done in other parts of the world that are even more arid than Garissa, where Senator Abdul comes. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, is on this issue of settling and formulation of strategies to achieve the annual carbon sequestration targets and for connected purposes. Mr. Speaker, that is an important conversation as well. I know with the coming in of President Trump in America, and he's very radical in the opposite way views on how to do climate management, the world will be affected, Mr. Speaker, because of companies that will now perhaps not feel the urge to meet their share of trying to be environmentally sustainable in their practices, Mr. Speaker. But I don't believe that money alone was the only motivation, and I don't believe that this was a responsibility of one country. The rest of all of us, the countries that believe in a green and a more sustainable environment, Mr. Speaker, should carry on the dream. Who knows, in other years to come, some of these countries that today do not see the need to lead these efforts, Mr. Speaker, will be calling upon us, you know, to assist them in one way or the other. Therefore, I want to lend my support into this very noble exercise of ensuring that actually each county achieves their targets. And Senator Abdul will lay out bare the strategies that the various county governments will do so to ensure that we achieve that particular regard. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, with those many comments, I'd wish to leave it at that. I know that Section 21 has provided for the functions of forestry on the county government, which includes something very important, and which is 21C, which is the preparation of an annual report with the approval of the county assembly. That is, our county assemblies will actually confirm, you know, that report on the activities of the county government in relation to this act and any national policies for forest management, so that each governor can actually give an account of basing on all the activities, because all these forestation and afforestation activities, Mr. Speaker, they happen in counties. And it is important for county governments to give an account and say, in our county, we have achieved our target to have grown from this number to the other. And the county assembly members who come from the various wards that make up a county to affirm and share that report. I don't know whether, Senator Abdul, it is possible to push and ensure that those reports are actually filed with the Senate, apart from just being approved in the National Assembly, so that we are also custodians of the reports that come from these county assemblies. With those many remarks, I beg to support. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Senator Wambua Enoch.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support this bill, the Environment Laws Amendment Bill 2024, being sponsored by a brother or friend senator from Garissa. Mr. Speaker, I want to make a few comments on the whole issue around environmental conservation and climate change in relation to this bill. To begin with, Mr. Speaker, I think a way must be found, now than ever before, to move from this archaic way of doing things in terms of tree planting, where we set aside a day, we say today is a tree planting day, we go and buy trees from nurseries, we distribute those trees to people, they go plant the trees and they go. As a speaker, you can be very sure, if one tree out of 20 that are planted survives, it's a miracle. As speaker, we need to begin to take tree planting a little bit more seriously, and for people, for leaders to be hands-on in dealing with this matter of climate change and environmental conservation. The Speaker, I want to thank Senator Aji for proposing this bill. And as the majority leader said, I wish some space would be found either expressly or implicitly in the Speaker in this bill to ensure that we as leaders take the front row in pushing forward the agenda of environmental conservation. I have this in mind, Mr. Speaker. The place to begin in ensuring that then the ideals of these executives succeed in planting 15 billion trees by 2030 would be to begin with our own homes. That the Speaker, every senator in this Senate has a place that they call home. If every senator would establish a forest of their own definition at their own home, whether it is 20 trees or 30 trees or 50 trees or 100 trees, and nurture those trees, Mr. Speaker, to maturity. Then we will begin to speak to other people about forest cover and about conserving our environment. The next stop, Mr. Speaker, and this is important, would be to move to our immediate environment in the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I want to challenge the mover of this, the promoter of this bill, to work closely with the administration of Parliament and make sure that this Senate, each senator gets a tree, a seedling, and we grow them within this
environment within the compound of Parliament, and make sure that the remaining 2.5 years, each senator nurtures their own seedling to maturity. The Speaker, if we begin that way, then we'll be giving effect to serious environmental conservation. Because, Mr. Speaker, conserving our environment and increasing our forest cover will not happen in boardrooms. It will not happen, Mr. Speaker, on the floor of this Senate. It will happen on the ground. Real trees being grown by real people, and those trees, Mr. Speaker, being nurtured to maturity. The next step, Mr. Speaker, would be for us as leaders, as senators. Each senator in this Senate is a former student in a primary school somewhere in this country. What about, Mr. Speaker, each one of us retreating to our respective primary schools? It will mean that there will be, at the very least, 67 primary schools in the Republic where we establish forests sponsored and spearheaded by senators, Mr. Speaker. Then, if that is achieved, Mr. Speaker, now we can begin to talk to the public about environmental conservation. Mr. Speaker, even as I support this bill, I am reminded, those of us who went to school to primary school when President Moi was in office, he had a very serious clarion call on environmental conservation. That time, it was being called, was dealing with soil erosion. In Kiswahili, they called it momonyoko wa udongo. And I remember the former president went around the country, literally building gabions, stopping, soil erosion. I remember very fondly when he visited Kitui. At that time, I was a very small boy. And he went to a place called Chane. Chane is in Matinyane ward of Kitui West constituency. And he helped to build gabions just to stop soil erosion. Mr. Speaker, this exercise of conserving our environment, increasing forest cover, making sure that we have a country that attains a better percentage of forest cover is an exercise that, Mr. Speaker, must now, better than ever before, move from boardrooms, from the floor of the house to where that needs to be addressed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I say this fully cognizant of the fact that, Mr. Speaker, as the ML has said, there has been a ban on logging, but that ban was lifted. Mr. Speaker, on Monday, and I remember this very sadly, on Monday this week, as I was driving at night from Laikipia, where I attended the burial of the father of our friend, our colleague, Senator Kenywa, I saw many trucks leaving forests, I think they are badeas, carrying huge logs. And I remember telling my driver that this one tree here must have been in existence for more than 50, 60 years. And just one night, somebody wakes up, they go cut these trees as they pursue a profit motive. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the administration that, Mr. Speaker, even as we continue to deal with this issue of climate change, even as we want to support local businesses, the timber industry, to strike a healthy balance between allowing logging and ensuring that we achieve the target of 15 billion trees by 2030. Mr. Speaker, if there is one area where I personally will support the initiative of the National Executive, it is in the area of climate change. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we don't fix our environment, if we don't fix our forests now, then, Mr. Speaker, future generations will judge us very harshly. Because the rate at which we are destroying our environment, the rate at which we are felling trees, the rate at which we are doing logging, Mr. Speaker, it's a danger, Mr. Speaker, to the future sustainability of our forests in this country. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I want to mention that this bill, though it speaks to environmental conservation and forest cover and legislations that need to be put in place and the changes that we need to put, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that this happens, Mr. Speaker, the work to be done is on our land, Mr. Speaker, and that work must be work that each one of us, every leader in this country, must take a lead role to ensure that we do our part in conserving our own environment. Mr. Speaker, with those remarks, I support.
Thank you, Senator Kio Wambua. Senator Esther Okenyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I also wish to support this amendment bill by Senator Abdul Haji. I think this is a conversation we've been having for quite some time, though worryingly this conversation is sticking at the top. I have tried doing my own analysis and trying to gather views, especially from ordinary people, that's the general public. Most of them are actually hearing about why we need to plant trees to help deal with climate change, or rather have it as an economic activity that they should engage in. But most of them do not actually understand what we are seeking to achieve. So it is very sad that this remains an elite conversation, which shouldn't be the case. Climate change needs to be a subject that our citizens need to understand, and understand that planting trees is not just for you. You can equally make money and also contribute to tackling some of the environmental challenges we are experiencing, Mr. Speaker. When I actually look at some of the proposed amendments that are coming in, like formulating and implementing plans for sourcing tree seeds and seedlings that are suitable for the environment, immediately I see an economic opportunity, because our people can then go ahead and have so many of these seed beds, have seedlings which can be purchased for planting, and in one way or another you're making money. I think this should actually not be left to the county governments only, but we also need to accommodate individual farmers or individual people who want to do tree planting for commercial purpose. Mr. Speaker, the issue of also having to establish tree nurseries in each county, this needs to go beyond the political jurisdictions, Mr. Speaker, because yes, counties are going to do this, but without the goodwill, why don't we have this trickle down even to schools, social places, and encourage people quickly to take this up, so that it doesn't look like it's governments which are in charge of tree planting alone? Because the moment you want people to join an activity, you need to make them feel part and parcel and see how they're actually going to benefit out of it. When you actually want one support, you have to appeal to their interest. So Kenyans, beyond being called to participate in tree planting, need to also look at the economic value they are going to derive from actually venturing into this, and the larger effect it's going to play to the environment, because now we have so many other challenges that we are facing as a result of climate change, and we need to sensitize our people. And that's why I've been emphasizing on civic education. Civic education, not just for political matters, but for people to understand, for Kenyans to have the culture of planting trees right from when they grow going to school, and then when now they are citizens who can make decisions for this country. Once we have that culture, we will not have a huge problem whereby we have to run campaigns to tell people why they need to plant trees. So in as much as we have those challenges, Senator Haji, this is a very good proposal that you're bringing to this House, not just for semi-arid areas, even in places like Kisii, where we feel like we are in highland areas. People need to still venture into afforestation so that when we are cutting down others, we are planting other trees so that we don't actually have our riverbeds running dry. And the result that will actually happen is that we'll have shortage of water, and the next thing you're seeing is even school girls having to search for water for long distances, and that trickles down to affecting the way in which they perform in school. Mr. Speaker, I equally see the bill proposing that we will have the Forest Conservation Management Act being amended to include that a person who harvests a tree shall replace the tree under the direction in an area designated by the service. How are we going to, Senator Haji, I think you also need to include, how are we going to know who is cutting which tree where, so that we are keeping track of the numbers we have and what we are losing and the replacements we are having. But generally, this is a very timely proposal, which we need to sensitize people on a daily basis wherever we are attending our functions, be it funerals, be it marketplaces, because like I said, we are losing the opportunity to make the people own tree planting. It's remaining an elite conversation, which after days of this initiative, like in Kenya being launched, ordinary people are yet to understand what we are talking about. So I support this proposal, and I want us to own it and talk about it wherever we are attending our functions, because it goes beyond we who are speaking today. Future generations will have an environment that they can actually thrive effectively and also make money out of tree planting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Esther Okenyuri. Senator Manso, you appear as though you want to speak, but I haven't seen any request from your end. Sorry, yes, we've got Senator Manso Daniel. Please proceed to contribute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this very important bill. And the basis is that climate change is real. And the law we've been having in place is a very old law, Mr. Speaker. And bearing in mind that we have a new constitution, there was every need to align the current law with the new constitution, and at the same time put this squarely as a devolution matter. Devolution is very important when it comes to afforestation. And one of, although this has been acted for a long time as a national affair, there is every need to devolve it to the counties and make sure that the system of governance in the counties participate fully in this particular affair. Mr. Speaker, for a long time, trees have been cut without being replaced, and especially in the drier parts of the country, it is even more appalling, Mr. Speaker. It is important that every single county in the country has its own program on tree planting. One of the biggest challenges, Mr. Speaker, has been the seedlings. And I believe from the county assembly, there should be a program whereby the counties take responsibility to make sure appropriate seedlings in accordance with the climate of that particular county are planted. Mr. Speaker, what has been happening is that we have a tree planting day. It's not well organized. Then you plant trees, some of which even do not survive in that particular climate. And as soon as we leave with no one watering them, all of them dry up And then we repeat this year after year, and still we don't have as many trees as we should be having. We are aware that, Mr. Speaker, there are areas where trees are done, for commercial purposes and are harvested and replaced accordingly, and those people are in a commercial venture. But we are also aware of places, Mr. Speaker, where trees have been cut carelessly and have not been replaced over the years, and desertification has continued. Mr. Speaker, anybody sampling any part of the country, wherever trees have been planted properly, and especially a tree which grows in that particular area. In Makueni, Mr. Speaker, we have a tree called mukau, which grows naturally in the dry areas. And even when you plant it, and the rains are insufficient, or it is not even watered, it still grows, because also naturally grows around that area. And you find those who have done recover forest cover have an organized forest cover of a natural tree, indigenous trees, which grow naturally in that area and are very suitable for commercial purposes, because that particular tree in Makueni called mukau is very ideal for timber, and also stays leafy for a long time, and is also eaten up by animals when there is insufficient food. So a part of the branches are delicacy to goats. And therefore, you find that the county governments have a lot of trust land. The water towers in many parts of the country are under the county governments, and these are the ones which should be planted accordingly, so that all those beautiful hills which are running dry are able to be planted with the trees which grow there naturally. And unless the county government takes this as a responsibility, it may not be well coordinated by the national government on its own. And therefore, the county government identifies these areas and afforests them. Mr. Speaker, when I was at the National Assembly, I had, after the new constitution, there has been transition. And there was one of the water towers in my village which had gone misused for some time. So I took an initiative to employ one of people in the office of Member of Parliament to particularly take care of the forest issues, because under CDF you have 1% or 2% for environment conservation. And we were able to plant trees, and even by naturally keeping people away from cutting trees, the natural bushes grow, and the coverage becomes very good, and the ecosystem rebalances afresh. And I believe the county government now has a capacity to employ quite a number of people, because not every single member of parliament will have enough monies, or every single member of National Assembly will have enough monies to manage the conservation. In fact, that 2% is used to do gabions. And if you do as many gabions as possible in the rivers, then you also have some water to have seedling areas. And then you are able to grow, the normal trees for timber and the normal trees for environmental conservation. We also have now another area of environmental conservation which has come up recently. In a mango growing area or citrus growing area like Makueni, we are now able to have mangoes as forests, and at the same time as a commercial activity. And we are even processing them to mango joys. And a lot of Kenyans come down to Makueni to buy mangoes to export and for commercial purposes. So that also is best done by the county governments, because it's, if you are going to do fruit, fruit growing trees also as forests, and also for purposes of the environmental conservation, and even to make sure that there's a tree cover, and to make sure that the environment is taken care of, and at the same time a commercial activity takes place. This is it needs also at times protection from harmful insects, spraying, and also making sure that the fruit is taken care of, but also in a forest. And they have come up with many of that. And another area which is very important, and we'll be discussing it later in the House. I've seen the new Cooperatives Act. You know, tree growing and environmental conservation can also be done through cooperatives in the countryside. And the moment you organize in a cooperative manner, you involve the people better, the purpose is set, and they will have targets, and the cooperatives are also devolved. They are working at the county government. So that's another area we should look at, because you see, laws can work together. If you have an environmental law, you have a forest law, and at the same we have a cooperative law, whereby cooperatives can be organized to grow trees, you know, for forest cover and for commercial purposes. Then it becomes better in terms of mobilizing the people to make sure that tree planting takes place. And even in cases where the trees need to be watered, then you have an organized team which will make sure that these trees get there. But I want to emphasize, Mr. Speaker, that we will be best if we do seedlings appropriate to a climate area. And also if we conserve the trustlands, Mr. Speaker, so that the normal natural bushes or trees can be allowed to grow, to make sure also that area is covered. And I believe through this, Mr. Speaker, and this very important law, we are going to conserve our environment, we are going to improve the climate of the world, we are going to deal with the poisoning of the climate by carbons, we are going to slow speed of wind, and even in a lot of occasions, then we are going to make sure that rains come back to areas they have abandoned, because the crowds will simply be swept quickly by the winds, because the trees are the ones who slow the winds and eventually increase rainfall, and that goes on to improve the ecosystem because it is repeated and it continues to happen. And therefore, availability of water is important. Damming, like Thwake Dam, silted dams, and even porous dams, and even gabions, to make sure water is here and at the same time trees are grown and planted. Mr. Speaker, I want to support and congratulate the Senator for Garissa and hope that this will apply in the harsh climates like his county and my county, and will increase the tree cover of the country. Mr. Speaker, I beg to support, and I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Manzo. Senator Mundigi.
Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipa nafasi niweze kuchangia mjadala wa Senator